Hi, my name's Martin and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to Get Sober with Martin. Today we're going to start reading a book which is AA conference approved literature, and the name is Living Sober. I will put a PDF link to the book in the comments on the YouTube channel, so if you'd like to read along, you're more than welcome to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a chapter from the book in every video, and I will share any experience I have in relation to the parts that I read that may be useful. So this channel, I suppose what it's all about is it's about sharing as much of the material that helped me get sober and stay sober as I can. I do this to stay sober myself. There's no profit motive. I have been taught to pass this message on as much as possible to safeguard and guarantee my own sobriety. So that's what we'll be doing, and we'll kick it off. The first chapter is called Using This Booklet, the booklet in which, as I said, I'll put a PDF link in the comments. So it starts off, this booklet does not offer a plan for recovery from alcoholism. The Alcoholics Anonymous steps that summarize its program of recovery are set forth in detail in the books Alcoholics Anonymous and 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. So what it's basically pointing out there that, this isn't what's going to get you sober or keep you sober. There are two books that detail the program. The one that details the program of action that helps us get sober and stay sober, which is the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and the second book, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. What that does is it enlarges on the steps and also the traditions, in which keeps the group intact. So what this book is not is what it's talking about, but it's a very useful book, and it'll explain as we go on what it actually is. Those steps are not interpreted here, nor are the processes they cover discussed in this booklet. Here we tell only some methods we have used for living without drinking. You're welcome to all of them, whether you're interested in Alcoholics Anonymous or not. Our drinking was connected with many habits, big and little. Some of them were thinking habits, or things we felt inside ourselves. Others were doing habits, things we did, actions we took. In getting used to not drinking, we have found that we needed new habits to take the place of those old ones. And when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, the most I could have hoped for was to stop drinking. The most that I thought was on offer was the possibility that maybe I could learn something there, or I could do whatever it was people did there, and I'd stop drinking. But what actually happened was I got so much more stuff that I didn't know that was available or on offer as a result of going there and doing what people did. And that was something special. And I remember being a couple of years in and hearing at a meeting, the only thing you only have to change one thing in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's everything. And I think if I had heard that in the early days, I didn't really want to change anything. I just wanted to stop drinking. But by the time I'd heard that in a meeting, everything had changed. I was living in a different country, working in a different industry. I was in a relationship that I never thought I would be able to be in, or to have. Life had completely turned on its head in a positive way, far beyond the limits of my imagination. And the changes do happen, if we go through the processes, thankfully. So we'll continue. For example, instead of taking that next drink, the one in your hand or the one you've been planning on, can you just postpone it until you read to the bottom of page 6? And if you're reading along, you'll find that we're on page 1 at the moment. Sip some soda or fruit juice instead of an alcoholic beverage while you read. A little later, we'll explain more fully what's behind this change in habits. After we spent a few months practicing these new sober habits or ways of acting and thinking, they became almost second nature to most of us as drinking used to be. Not drinking has become natural and easy, not a long, dreary struggle. And I remember coming into to AA and not doing what people did. I just, was a guy who just went to meetings, and I was the last guy in and the first guy out. I didn't want to get to know anybody. I didn't want to do anything in there. I wanted, some sort of magic to come up through the seat and get me well. And once I was well enough, I would stop going. And that's what it felt like, my recovery did not feel what it talks about here, being natural and easy. It did feel what it talks about, the long, dreary struggle. And I eventually relapsed. And I came in and, I admitted that I didn't have the answers, that my way didn't work. And, I didn't want to do the long, dreary struggle because I knew there was an alternative. When I came in first, I didn't know there was an alternative. We can have joyful, fun sobriety with peace and serenity, and it doesn't feel like, we're a pressure cooker ready to explode. There is an alternative, thankfully. So these practical hour-by-hour methods can easily be used at home, at work, or in social gatherings. Also included here are several things we have learned not to do or to avoid. These were things that we now see once tempted us to drink or otherwise endangered our recovery. We think you'll find many or even all of the suggestions discussed here valuable in living sober with comfort and ease. There is nothing significant about the order in which the booklet presents them. They can be rearranged in any way you like that works. Nor is this a complete listing. Practically every AA member you meet can give you at least one more good idea not mentioned here. And you will probably come up with brand new ones that work for you. We hope you pass them on to others who can also profit by them. AA as a fellowship does not formally endorse nor recommend for all alcoholics every line of action included here. And I would just like to add too that, I personally do not represent AA. I don't speak on behalf of the fellowship. And these views and experiences are just my own, that I've learned and experienced along my journey. And you can take them with a pinch of salt. If something does work for you, fantastic. And if you choose not to try something, that's great too. All I can do is what was done for me is that these tools were laid at my feet, and it was up to me to pick them up. And some of them I use to today. Some of them didn't work, or perhaps maybe they didn't work at one time, and then I would go back and pick them up later, and it would work. So yes, this booklet is planned as a handy manual for consulting from time to time, not something to read straight through just once then forgotten. Here are 2 cautions which have proved helpful. A. Keep an open mind. And that was, when I came in, they said that the essentials of recovery can be broken down to WHO, or the word WHO, and it's willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. And I always thought I was so open-minded, so liberal, and it wasn't the case. I was very rigid in my thinking, very blinkered, tunnel vision, and not very open to the idea that somebody else might have the answers where I don't. So, caution A, keep an open mind. Perhaps some of the suggestions offered here will not appeal to you. If that is the case, we have found that instead of rejecting them forever, it's a better idea just to set them aside for the time being. If we don't close our minds to them permanently, we can always go back later on and try out ideas we didn't like before, if we want to. For instance, some of us found that in our initial non-drinking days, the suggestions and comradeship offered by an AA sponsor helped us greatly to stay sober. And that was my experience. I remember eventually getting a sponsor. I was too afraid to ask somebody. Thankfully, somebody assigned me one, and I was able to go through the processes of recovery with him. And it was a great help to bounce my early day craziness off. And when times when I thought I was going to drink or life was far too overwhelming, I was able to call this guy, and he was able to share some experience with me and what had worked for him. And thankfully, I'm still sober today. Others of us have waited until we had visited many groups and met many AAs before we finally called on a sponsor's help. Some of us found formal prayer a strong aid in not drinking, while others fled from anything that suggested religion. But all of us are free to change our minds on these ideas later if we choose. And prayer, I mean, I grew up in a very religious family and rebelled at that as a teenager and pushed the God idea out of my life. I was a mean-spirited human being. I would ridicule people for their beliefs in God. And when I walked into AA and seen the steps up on the wall, and there was all I could see was so much God in there and written there, and it just did not sit right with me. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not leaving, but I'm definitely not doing that. So I'm not going anywhere, but I'm not doing that. And I was not open-minded to the idea. As I covered earlier, I did eventually relapse. And the second time I came in, I was open to possibly praying to something. Maybe if it wasn't the God of my childhood, but some sort of something that was out there. That maybe was bigger than me. And I remember somebody suggested that we could use the group that I went to as a temporary thing that was bigger than me, that I could perhaps believe that could help me stop drinking. The group was bigger. There was more people than me. They'd stayed sober as a result of going there, and maybe I could believe that that the power in which there is in meetings, that helps people get back from the brink. Maybe that sort of whatever is in that could help me too. So I prayed for that, or to that power, which felt a bit strange, of course, or very strange. I did it out of desperation more than anything, and but eventually my idea of what a higher power is changed. But that was I was willing to do whatever, and even if it seemed a bit weird. And that was definitely a turning point in my journey, and I still pray, thankfully. But all of us are free to change our minds on these ideas later if we choose. Many of us found that the sooner we started work on the 12 steps offered as a program of recovery in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, the better. And that was the thing that gave me the relief I was looking for all my life, where I had tried to put alcohol in to fit into that dark hole, the endless hole. That is unfillable. The 12 steps gave me the relief I was looking for through drinking and everything else that I did. And it's important that we ask somebody who has had experience of going through those steps to guide us, and that's what a sponsor does. That is the singular role and task of a sponsor, to guide somebody through the 12 steps. And that's one thing I do to stay sober, also to take people through these steps and to see them start a new way of life, which is infinitely better. So this, it's talking here, the sooner we do that, the better. Others of us felt the need to postpone this until we had been sober a little while. The point is, there is no prescribed AA right way or wrong way. Each of us uses what is best for himself or herself, without closing the door on other kinds of help we may find valuable at another time, and each of us tries to respect others' rights to do things differently. And that's the thing, we don't all do it the same, and we're all different human beings, even if we suffer from the same disease. And there is no right way or wrong way. The relief, we do have a common solution that works for us all. There is no alcoholic that it won't work for. We just have to do it, and if we do it, we get well. So that's, it is as simple as that. Nobody is left out. Sometimes an AA member will talk about taking the various parts of the program in cafeteria style, selecting what he likes and letting alone what he does not want. Maybe others will come along and pick up the unwanted parts, or maybe that member himself will go back later and take some of the ideas he previously rejected. However, it is good to remember the temptation in a cafeteria to pick up nothing but a lot of desserts or starches or salads or some other food we particularly like. And that was me, you know, that was my life. I always took the easy route. I didn't want to do anything that created discomfort for me, or that was uncomfortable, or that, you know, I thought everything that was meant for me in life would be seamless and easy and natural feeling. But I've learned since I've come into recovery that some of the greatest growth I've had and some of the most amazing relief that I've had from the past is doing things that I was afraid to do or that were very uncomfortable. And you know, that's, I've realized that is one of the huge parts of growth in recovery, that not that everything is going to be easy. It serves as an important reminder to keep a balance in our lives. In recovering from alcoholism, we found that we needed a balanced diet of ideas, even if some of them did not look at first as enjoyable as others. Like good food, good ideas did us no good unless we made intelligent use of them. And that leads to our second caution, caution B. Use your common sense. This is it. We found that we have to use plain everyday intelligence in applying the suggestions that follow. Like almost any other ideas, the suggestions in this booklet can be misused. For example, take the notion of eating candy. Obviously, alcoholics with diabetes, obesity or blood sugar problems have had to find substitutes so they would not endanger their health, yet could still get the benefit of the candy eating idea in recovery from alcoholism. Many nutritionists favour protein-rich snacks over sweets as a general practice. Also, it's not good for anybody to overdo this remedy. We should eat balanced meals in addition to the candy. Another example is the use of the slogan, and you'll hear it often in a easy does it. Some of us have found that we could abuse this sensible notion, turning it into an excuse for tardiness, laziness or rudeness. That is not, of course, what the slogan is intended for. Properly applied, it can be healing. Misapplied, it can hinder our recovery. Some among us would add to it, easy does it, but do it. Every method described here needs to be used with good judgment. One more thing, AA does not pretend to offer scientific expertise on staying sober. We can share with you only our own personal experience, not professional theories and explanations. So these pages offer no new medical shortcuts on how to stop drinking if you're still doing it, nor any miraculous secrets for shortening or avoiding a hangover. If I could avoid or shorten a hangover, there's a chance I may still be drinking. Who knows? Sometimes getting sober can be done on your own at home, but frequently prolonged drinking has caused such serious medical problems that you would be better advised to seek medical or hospital help for drying out. But if you're that seriously ill, you may need such professional services before you can possibly be interested in what we offer here. Many of us who are not that sick, however, have sweated it out in the company of other AA members. Because we have been through it ourselves, we can often help in a layman's way to relieve some of the misery and suffering. And that's it. Some of us, if we've been drinking very heavily every day for long periods of time, we may need, professional help in detoxing. We may need to go to hospital and be detoxed by doctors. But if your drinking wasn't as huge in frequency and volume, which it doesn't have to be an alcoholic, it's probably best just to go to an AA meeting today or tomorrow or whenever you feel motivated to do so. At least we understand. We have been there. So this booklet is about not drinking rather than about stopping drinking. It's about living sober. It's about helping to stay stopped. And it's so much aimed at somebody if you're in the early days and if you're feeling cravings and you don't know what to do and maybe there's no meetings on at the time of the day. This will give you some tips and tricks on what to do. So we have found that for us, recovery began with not drinking, with getting sober and staying completely free of alcohol in any amount. And that's it. We can't have alcohol in any amount. We can't have one beer. That's what we're like. We can't stop at one beer, or even if we can do it once, we can't do it consistently. The only solution for us is complete abstinence. And in any form, and it talks about any form at all, so it says here any form, and that would mean we stay away from alcohol, even if it's not in a glass of wine or a bottle of beer or a glass of spirits. If there's alcohol in something, we would try and stay away from that, so as not to trigger the sort of allergy that they describe in AA, that once it gets into our system, our body craves more. So we try and stay away from it. We have also found that we have to stay away from other mind-changing drugs. That's important. I've tried in my early days, before my current sobriety date, to try to mess around with mind-changing drugs as a way of staying sober from alcohol, and it didn't work for me. I had that sobriety that was difficult and painful and not enjoyable, and I wasn't sober. I was still trying to fill the hole in the soul with something else. We can move toward a full and satisfying life only when we stay sober. Sobriety is the launching pad for our recovery. In a way, this booklet is about how to handle sobriety. Before we couldn't, so we drank. And that's the end of chapter 1. So that was today. That was the first chapter of the book. And if you tune in next Saturday, hopefully we'll go through chapter 2. So in future videos, I will be speaking on certain topics that are common in recovery and reading some important pamphlets that answer some of the common questions about AA and their groups. What they are, what they're not. The question of anonymity. Questions about sponsorship. Do I have to believe in God? Does this thing cost money? And lots more. Some of the questions we have before we come in. I will be uploading a short 1-minute reading every day. It's something that I do almost since the beginning of recovery, that I read some some recovery related reading every day. So I've decided to upload those. I hope they may be of some help. There's a different topic every day. And I will post one longer video every Saturday. So please like and comment this video if you find it satisfactory. Feel free to comment with any suggestions on topics to talk about that are related to recovery. And in the meantime, hit that red subscribe button at the bottom of the screen and hit that bell. The subscribe link is also in the video description for you to click, along with links to my TikTok, Twitter and Instagram. And make sure to visit and say hello. It's really good that you stopped by. Have a good day and enjoy your sobriety. Bye bye.